Hey, me, Tort. Look, honestly, I don't know how to do this intro. That's because I have two ideas for today, and those two ideas are very conflicting. I want to make a super smelter, which I'm going to build somewhere over there, and I want to make a bee farm, which I'm going to put somewhere over here. You get it? I hope you do. All right, I guess I start on the super smelter. Okay, so I think I have my shape decided. Of course, I want to smooth out this transition between the two circles a bit, so maybe something like that, and do that over here as well. Yeah, I like this a lot better than my first attempt at this. Okay, I guess I should explain this. There's three main things I want to put in here. One of them is storage for all my mining stuff. That's like lapis, gold, iron, whatever, you know, all that stuff. But the main functionality of this build is going to be a super smelter, which I'm putting in this region. I don't know how many furnaces I'm going to be able to fit in here, but I hope it's a lot. And then lastly, I'm going to need some way to get a fuel source like lava, and either I could do that automatically if I have the space, or I could just fit that in some outdoor thing. Grab the lava manually, walk back inside, and put the fuel in myself. Now that I say that out loud, that's likely what's gonna happen, okay? I'll have some kind of entrance right here, and some staircases around here. This will be higher up. Maybe a big lava pit here. Archway here for an outdoor area. I've got a pretty good vision of what this is going to turn out to be. And I think it's going to include a dock back here, a little bit of an elevated platform with an elevator system to get resources from out wherever. Just a little bit of storytelling, a little bit of world building. It can be worked into future stuff around here as well. I've wanted this village to expand out into the water anyway, so this will be a good start to that. And then when it comes to landscaping, this is a pretty blank space. I might add like a wagon or something. And since there were pumpkins here, I'm going to replace this area with a pumpkin patch. That's the whole idea for this building. Let me see if I can figure out the super smelter. It just can't be that hard to make, right? I mean, to be fair, I have two of them already right here, but it doesn't have a fuel system yet. I guess I'll just tear these down real quick. But I'm going to need to make a lot more of these, and these, and these. Oh yeah, side note, I flattened this whole area. This is just things I do in my free time. I don't know if it's been seen since like, what, episode 2? So, speaking of things I do in my free time, I guess I started organizing my ender chest, got a bunch of shulker shells, and started labeling things. I don't know what to do with these yet, but these are all misc boxes. You know, just little updates of things I've been doing on the side. Okay, I think I've crafted everything I'll need. That's definitely not true, but it's at least enough to mess around with right now. So, what kind of room are we working with here? I just realized I made 8 of each of these, and I'm definitely not going to be using that many. Excess is never a problem, though. Maybe a line of 7 there will be good. So I'm going to have an output chest, and all the output hoppers will run along the bottom like this. And then we'll have fuel, which will run along the back like this. Very simple. And lastly, I need hoppers on top to feed whatever we're smelting. Duplicate that over here. Okay, so there's that part of it. With that in mind, though, I gotta make sure I get this minecart situation correct. So if I have it like this, I can power the rail from here without interfering with anything. And I can do that here as well. Actually, let me break these for now, because I just realized I have to consider the second one also. So down here, we'll also have a minecart track. Actually, can I just repeat whatever's going on here? No! Yes, I can. Okay, I just had to do it in a certain order. So it all works out like this. The minecarts are going to be stationed here, and I need a way to load them. The first thing that came to mind is just putting hoppers here, and I believe that works, right? Yup. And then I would need input chests for the fuel and the smelty right here. Now I can worry about how I'm going to power these. For this side... Huh. Block there? That shouldn't ruin this minecart. And then these two I want to toggle, so I'll use a lever right here. Why? Okay, I just added a slip to them, like on this side. And I also had to only have one power rail because when I flicked this and it returned, it was getting stuck. So you see it makes a full trip. I can turn that off, and it sits up against the chest. So I think, this is a fully functional system. That means I can replicate it over here, and we should be good to go. One last final change to note, though. I had to move this minecart thing 1 block to the left, because I had the lever here, and it was locking up. And in order for that lever to work for both of them, I had to move everything over left 1. I'm kind of proud of myself. Squeezed the whole system in perfectly. I counted 4 blocks out, as a guess, and it worked out. Barely. With the functionality done, I can get some walls around this thing. Alright, pretty simple. Most of this is borrowed from other structures. We've got the brick granite base, which is seen over here, just in a different format, as well as this white terracotta. So I guess both from that building. This wall is a little unique to this building, but it's still inspired by this section here, and is gonna have a similar style roof with this cobble and mossy cobble. Although it will be circular, I believe. I was thinking of having some kind of sloped roof, but I just don't think it's working with how large of a circle this is. Another circular roof on this section. I'm gonna have to figure out some kind of a transition here. I'm not exactly sure how this interface is gonna work. Maybe there'll be a flat wall here with a window in it. We'll figure it out. Messed around with the floor a little bit so you can see my game plan here a little more. It's all one block lower than it'll actually be, but we have the upper platform here. We've got a bit of a sloped staircase on either end down, and the lava pit, I think I mentioned earlier, right here. And a little storage area, which is going to be pretty open. And we've got our exit to the back, which is going to have our elevated platform, the docks, all that stuff. I think it's all going to be pretty simple to do. Before any more detailing, I'll slap a roof on this. Now that the roofs are in, I have a lot more confidence in the outcome of this build. As you can see here, replicated this cobbled roof, as well as our typical grass roofs. Since this is a super smelter, added a smokestack to the center of this portion, and also added the detail of having the coarse and rooted dirt to show that the vegetation is dying here, dead bushes. It looks a little weird, but like, weird isn't bad or anything. And I think the height of it works out pretty well. You can see the sightline walking from here. You can't see all of it, you can just see it poking out. And when you're close up, you can just see the ends of the smoke. Same kind of effect from this other end as well. I like it. Of course, a lot of detail from the walls are missing, and there's no interior yet. But I thought I might as well finish all the outside first, so let's get this figured out. And with this lava lake filled in, it's basically done. Let me just fly away real quick so we can get a better view of this. Look at that. Adding this outdoor section gave the building a lot more individuality compared to the rest. And I think that's something that it was needing. Let me get a bird's eye view here. You can see it's filling up the space a lot better. The dock is really bare bones right now. I don't know exactly how I want to detail this. Like I said, I want to expand this in the future, so I'm not sure if I'm going to touch this now. Hello. But it's at least there for the idea. Up here, we're storing some ores very neatly. And I built this big rock, which I didn't expect to do. I wanted a place to farm lava, and my initial idea was to have some cauldrons, but then I realized I needed the lava above. So I was going to build a rock and put the lava in the rock, and then that didn't really work, but I had this, and it looked cool. So my lava farm itself is actually down here. I've got 15 cauldrons right now, which is quite a bit for what we've got going on here. And above it is this facade. I really like it. And it's a good transition into this backspace where we're gonna have our pumpkins. Few small little details like this archway here to clean this up. Threw in a few windows on this portion. And added bushes along the bottom, some buttons on this wall. I thought I was gonna add a lot more to this, but I don't think it needs it. I like it the way it is. I wouldn't expect a forge like this to have windows, especially in the forging area, so we also get natural light from the smokestack up here anyway, so I like the lighting the way it is. Now I think, honestly, I've had enough of this place, so I want to move on to our bee farm. I'll save this interior for the end of the video and I can talk about it. Welcome to bee farmland. This isn't my bee farm. I guess it kind of works as one. Like, I've got the flowers here. It would work manually, but this isn't what I want as an end result. This room is mainly for breeding bees because, the main problem with bee farmland is the lack of bees right now. I think these hives used to have bees with them, but, they may have all died somehow. So we need to go exploring and build up our bee count real quick. I'm gonna go off in this direction because I think I remember a bee being here. There's a hive. Yup. Now I think the best way to go about this is to wait until nighttime and he gets in there and I just silk touch it. That's gonna take a while, though. At least we're in the evening, though. It won't be horrible. Oh, oh. Yoink. Thank you. Now, I just need one more, but it's gonna be a lot harder to find if the bee isn't roaming. So do I sleep and just wait? I guess so. I don't know why I picked these up. I can just put them back. Whatever bee I find is probably gonna have a nest with it, so I shouldn't have to worry about that. And good morning. Now I gotta find a bee that I don't know the location of. This exploration might be a good time to show off something that I thought was pretty funny. In the beginning of the video, I showed my... Whoa! Bee! Okay, never mind. I mean, I'll still show it, but I'm gonna have to wait for you. While I'm waiting, let's go over here. So, beginning of the video, I mentioned that I got a bunch of shulkers. I showed my ender chest. I had to go to the end for that, and I didn't realize how close the end portal was to our base here. These areas were completely disconnected in my mind before, and they're actually just right next to each other. Yeah, here's the staircase I built. This is all the way back in episode 1. Look, it's the room that I used to do the transition of the first side. Yeah, it's just right here. Like 2 rockets away, which I find really funny. Actually, I think it's in the hive. Hold on. Did I? It didn't stack. I think that worked. This may have been the easiest bee collection of all time. I didn't expect it to be hard in the first place, but like, that was a little too easy. Bee number 1. Bee number 2. Also, let me take that real quick. Okay, well, I know that worked. And that was the one that was by that tree. So we should have 2 bees in there. I set this up as a manual farm because I need beehives and I currently only have 6 honeycombs. So, okay, well, all I can do at this point is do this a bunch. It's so tiny. I'll see you when I have a lot more bees. Is 15 a lot more? I don't know, but it is to me. We've got 15 bees in here and 5 hives. If all of them are in there, that means I can yoink one. It's full. I throw it in my hive box and I get another one. And I can breed up 3 more bees to fill this up. That's the system I have in place right now. And it's working just fine. So I'm gonna keep it that way. I like to keep count of the number of bees because it can get very confusing sometimes with them popping in and out. And I want to be efficient, cycling it every time I have 15, so... Of course, I don't have to wait on every hive to fill up before I start this farm. Since there is a way to replace these without blowing up the entire thing, you just wait for nighttime, and then you replace it, and then you're good. This farm's really simple, so I'm going to build it first and explain it later, just for those who don't know how it works. Alright, let me explain how it works after I deal with you. I just sent him on a trip to somewhere, so he would stop making noise, you know? Anyways, right now, I have logs substituted in instead of beehives, just because I want all of the hives in here to be full, so I'm doing the whole thing over there. But the beehives are going to be here, and the bees are going to come out, and they have the flower to pollinate, and they come back in. If you put a comparator on the back of a beehive, it actually gives an output signal based on the honey level. And the max level, when it's ready to harvest, is a strength of 5. So we have a redstone line of 5 coming out of the back here, on top of the dispensers. And when we reach that strength, it'll trigger it. Now, one thing I realized when I was doing this setup is that this is actually the 4th signal strength, and it's triggering it. But you can see that's not a problem. We go one further, now it's lighting that when it's at 5. And it's fine. So it'll trigger excessively, but I don't think that really matters. I'm not entirely sure how, like, durability works for the things in here, so maybe it'll eat through things faster. It's fine. I have an iron farm. We've got 2 sides set up. I'll have one for honey and the other for honeycomb. The only thing to do at this point is build a thing around this thing. Oh yeah, and add all the hives. Okay, first of all, that entire rant I went on about it being fine that it ticked twice was not correct. Apparently, it was problematic, so I had to add this block here to add some spacing so that the one that was the 4th is now the 5th. And it's working fine now. Got a whole 24 honeycomb now. And 9 over here. I mentioned it earlier, but I want this side to be the actual honey bottles. I just need to actually get bottles to put in here. Now for what I actually wanted to talk about, the building. It is kind of just a giant rectangle right now. Hopefully it won't be that by the end. I mean, it kind of will. Okay, my idea. I want a ruined skyscraper. So this thing actually would have been like that tall, way up there. But as we are working in our very ruined kind of apocalyptic theme, it has seen a lot of wear and is now down to just this. I'm taking inspiration from like old New York skyscrapers. These are going to be tall windows. You know, usually you have your shops down here. People are going to walk by, go window shopping. Maybe I can put some armor stands, some paintings, look like there's some advertisements in there. The main entrance will be right here, and I don't think I'm going to get to an interior today, but eventually there will be one. And then I've marked out with the 4 corners generally what I want the height to be. Now, when it comes to color palette for this thing, I have the materials laid out somewhere in this mess. This bottom segment is going to be very brown, so I'm using this brown terracotta and the 2 different kinds of logs and some packed mud on top as the highlight. And then the main building itself on top is going to be very gray with this wool and gravel and concrete powder. I'm gonna use this diorite as a trim, mainly around this base, but possibly around all the windows. Again, it's that older New York style, so a lot more wall than window. Modern skyscrapers are kind of hard to do in this game because it's just all glass. And I think it'd be more fun to try this style anyway, so that's what I'm going for. Let's get this bottom floor filled in just so you have a better idea of what I'm talking about. Well, that's almost what I want. Few things not added, like the trim around these windows. Few things not finalized. I don't know if I want to keep this. I don't know if I want to keep the corners blank. But overall, this is the general feel of what I'm going for. It wasn't included in the time-lapse, but I added rebar up to the top. I could have gone with iron bars or something like that to be a little more realistic, but I kind of like the red. I mentioned going for an old New York style, and whenever I think of that, I always think about the videos of the people working on the skyscrapers, and they've got the big red steel beams. Now, I know that's not the same thing as rebar. It still translates, okay? You know, when I was thinking about the beams, it kind of confused me why they were red. I looked it up, and it was just like a rust prevention coating. So if you were curious about that, now you know. Anyways, really happy with what's going on here. This gradient works out really nicely. We've got the darker colors, and then separated by the white line, the lighter grays up top. I also like the contrast of a very straight gradient here, and then a very rough one up top. This ended up working out really nicely. I've got the concrete there just as a shadow against this trim, and then it's mostly stone with andesite mixed in randomly. The stone and andesite combo is a very random mixture, but then we have gravel patches where I've done more clusters. And then up top for highlights, we have the light gray wool and the light gray concrete powder, which I think just works out really well. Now you're probably staring at this thing and wondering, where are the bees? This isn't bee themed at all, and there's bees inside. Like, what are we doing here? Well, my answer is simple. I want to make a giant beehive. Actually, that's not so simple, but I already have a gradient figured out. The coloring I'm not too worried about. Now, of course, there are beehive blocks in the game, but we can't collect a bunch of those. So, I have an alternative. Bamboo planks actually work really well for a beehive. These darker lines do a really good job of mimicking the holes or the darker spots on beehives themselves. And I think at a larger scale, that's going to look really good, especially with this highlight and these shadow blocks, right? My main concern, honestly, is the shape of the hive and how I'm going to fit it into the structure, which is why it's something I'm going to figure out off camera and not here. Okay. It's that time again. We're nearing the end of the video, so it's that time where I do a bunch of work off camera, and then I do a couple of reveal shots, and I'm like, ooh, pretty. I'm way too close. So, have fun watching that. Oh no, I'm fading. And we are all finished. Look at my little bees. I like this place. It's not done yet. Didn't get the window things like I said I would. Haven't done this interior. But most importantly, the hive has no honey. Once this whole floor is filled with honey, and this isn't just sticking out of it randomly, it should bring the thing all together. But right now I don't have any bottles, so I don't have any honey. One thing I noticed with beehives is that they tend to make them in layers. I want to describe it as like individual discs stacked together. So that's what I tried to do here. There's a big main one in the middle, and then there's 2 smaller ones on either side. And they all converge in the back into one glob, basically. This building looks sick, though. I didn't consider its placement much when I started making it, but some of the sight lines are really nice. For example, seeing it from our storage village looks really cool. the fences sticking up look tiny from really far away, and it really sells that effect. Or how about from on top of our villager breeder? Just look at it. Even from our mending ravine, it looks really cool. This space definitely needed something, and I think I filled it with the right thing. That being said, pathing-wise, it's definitely, middle of nowhere right now, and I have no clue what else I'm gonna build around here. But like many of my problems, it's for future me. Few things to note on the side. Number one, I did not do this interior, like I said I would. The video's already pushing the time limit, and I really just don't feel like doing it right now, so I'm not gonna. Side note number two, ka-chow. There really isn't much else to say about this. I really like this build, and this video somehow came together into something kind of coherent. It was really all just prep for next episode. I wanted the wax so I would feel okay using copper, and I wanted the auto smelter just for convenience sake. But it's all gonna go into episode 10. I'm gonna build big thing behind me right here. If you want to see it, then maybe consider liking and subscribing and doing the things. But until then, I'm gonna go. Bye. 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 Bye.